Okay, so this last section, this is truly the culmination of the entire textbook, and it's called Invitational Communication. And it's, as the textbook says, this began in the field of rhetoric, where people are looking at persuasion. And they came up with this idea called invitational rhetoric. And then we took that, like I had anything to do with it. Then whoever they is, took the idea from rhetoric and took it into communication. So invitational communication is an approach that welcomes others to see your point of view and to freely share their own. And in invitational climate, communicators offer ideas without coercion, which means no one is forced to share ideas. They listen to ideas with an open mind. They exchange ideas without pressure. Okay, as they say, it doesn't mean they don't critically appraise the message they hear. They don't waffle about things they believe in. What it means is they endeavor to create a supportive climate based on value, safety, freedom, and all of those things can lead to civility. Several people, when they're writing about conflict, wrote about, oh, sorry, it was my other class. Okay, everything blurs. They were writing about how much conflict and incivility there is online. It's really easy to do that. So there are two videos that I have put on the video page. One is a short one with Sally Cohn talking about emotional correctness. It's 6 minutes. She's kind of funny, and she talks about how to create invitational communication. The other one, and I'm drawing a blank on the woman's name, I can see her face. It's longer. It's about 15 minutes. It's very moving. So if you don't feel like crying, don't watch it. But definitely, when you feel stronger, it is worth taking a look at. So if you think about back in chapter 4, where we talked about perception checking, this is a great way to it's a component of invitational communication, or it plays a part in invitational communication. The language of responsibility from chapter 5, which we're really going to talk about momentarily, especially using I language and judicious use of you language and using we language. And then from chapter 7, responsive listening. So let's take a look at something that is a jumping off point from the language of responsibility, and it's called the language of choice. Think about how many times you say something like, I have to do this. I don't know if you remember when we were doing I think it was a chapter on perception, where I had us reevaluating our can'ts, where you would say something like, I can't talk to my brother about how I feel because he'd just laugh at me. And then I had you rewrite it to say, is it really a can't? So we're going to do something similar with have to, or should, or ought. I don't know that we use ought all that often. But whenever we set something up like it's an obligation, all right, so it's no surprise that I have a little bit of an issue with my neighbors. They, the guy with the accordion music, and they, in the past, were very casual about having their dog walking in the it's really our yard, but it's between our houses, and he would poop wherever he wanted to, and they weren't that great about picking it up. And yet they were really angry if my kids went over and walked on their sidewalk. So, and so let's say a situation came up, their dog pooped in the yard, and I said, I have to go talk to the neighbors. Well, I mean, seriously? It's an obligation that I do that? Is it not that I am choosing to do it? When we say something is an obligation, we feel that we have no control over the situation. When you rephrase it so that it is a choice, I am going to talk to my neighbor. right? It's a decision that I have made. It's a choice that I have made. So the idea is if we are monitoring our own language, because we know that the language we use has an impact, a very large impact on how we think about the situation. When we start thinking about that we are exercising our own freedom to feel, to engage or not engage in that situation, and then we allow other people to exercise that same freedom, we have we can have a more open communication. So that's, instead of saying you should, or it becomes I'm going to and you can too, you have to, you could say, well, you are welcome to. Instead of you have to do this, you're welcome to come with me. Instead of you have to. We can't do this becomes I don't want to do this, which is probably more like the truth. I mean, if I'm thinking about myself, no, we can't do that. We can't spend money on this. Well, yeah, I mean, if there was no choice, we could, but I don't want to. So here are some phrases that maybe you could use, and I get it. This is tough. I hold a different opinion, but I understand why that's important to you. Definitely watch the Sally Cohn video. I have some thoughts on that matter. Would you like to hear them? I welcome your input. As it says, I may, in parentheses, I may or may not use it, but I value what you have to say. And here's something I feel strongly about. And it's okay if you don't. Okay, so that's one way that we can start to move to a situation where it's not people talking at each other, but people having an actual conversation where we're listening to other people. You are hoping that other people are listening to you and you are extending to them that same courtesy of listening. Okay. The last one is the idea of responding non-defensively to criticism. You know that no matter what, you will be criticized. It might be justified, it might not be justified. And rather than going to your initial, you're in that position to protect your face, and I'm doing this physically, like holding up my hands in front of my face. I just lost what I was, I sidetracked myself there. What you can do, and again, this is not necessarily easy, but when someone says something to you, they have said that I think you did a terrible job on this. You could say, can you tell me what specifically I didn't do well? Or, oh, are you upset because I didn't capitalize the letter I throughout my work? Or you can say, when you say that I didn't do a good job with this, are you talking about the ideas I presented or the fact that I sent it to you in the body of an email? Okay, so I think this is relatively simple to do. All right, somebody criticizes you. Yes, your first response is to, for some reason in high school, our response to criticism was, so's your face. Okay, so someone says, oh, you did a sloppy job. Yeah, so's your face. Okay, whatever your defensive response is, breathe, and then get more information by either asking for specifics, for guessing about the specifics, or paraphrasing what that person said to you. Or, and this, I believe, is the more challenging one, to agree with the critic. Okay, which means, excuse me, you're not agreeing with everything. Was there any truth in what they say? Okay, so you could say, wow, as I say, you're right, I am angry. Right? Why are you so angry about this? I'm not angry. You say, you know what, you're right, I am angry. And then you then explain the situation maybe in more detail. You can say, yep, you know what, I was being defensive there. You said something that touched on something I'm very passionate about. So you can agree with the truth. As I said, I am angry. You can agree with the principle. I like this one. So somebody says, you're working too hard, and you're not spending any time with the family because you're spending so much time on your work. And you say, you're right. I am working hard now. It's probably unhealthy, but finishing the job is worth the extra strain to me. So that's where you're agreeing in principle. Or you can agree with the critic's perception, where you say, I can see that when the person said like all you care about is your schoolwork, you don't want to spend any time with me, you can say, I can see how you might think that spending a lot of time on my work means that I don't have time to spend with you. Okay, these are not easy to do, but you are not saying in none of these did you say to the person, you're right, I'm the scum of the earth. You are saying there is some truth to this criticism. And when I have done this, the few times that I've managed to do it, I have found that the person who was criticizing was very taken aback. Oh. And all of a sudden, we had a much better conversation, because defensiveness breeds anger and more defensiveness. So, as they say, all these responses to criticism may appear to buy peace at the cost of denying your feelings. However, as you can see by now, counterattacking usually makes matters worse. The invitational responses you've just learned won't solve problems or settle disputes by themselves. Nevertheless, they will make a constructive dialogue possible, setting the stage for a productive solution. And in truth, I think sometimes in the heat of the moment, you can't do this. And either you respond defensively, and then later you come back and you say, you know what, I was really defensive, and now I would like us to actually sit down and talk about this. Or you could say, hold on, give me a minute. One of the things I always say in public speaking is have your water bottle with you. And when you lose your place, just pause and take a drink of water. I think we should all carry water bottles with us all the time. So someone says something to you and you're really angry, pause, slurp or sip, swallow, and maybe that has given you the time to calm down, and then you can respond more non-defensively to criticism. So this is chapter 12, how to create a climate in which more effective and appropriate communication is possible. Thank you. I'm in town all week. All right, let me get out of here.